we'll record it. All right, so our first one we want to review when we're talking about factoring is you always do a common factor first. So for instance, this here has a common factor. Again, just pulling a few examples from our other stuff. So this one here is a common factor of the x. You would take out that common factor of the x and go like this, and you would have leftover. So I took out the x there, and you have the leftover, and I'd have 4x minus 3. So you write the leftover. Okay, so that's a common factor. The common factor can be a number. So say like this. So it can be a common factor of a number. So you go 8 and 4 has a common factor of 4, and I'd have 2x minus 1 left over. So you're taking out, right? So dividing them both by the 4. It could be a number and a letter. It could be both. So say 12m cubed n plus 8m n to the 4 minus 6m squared n to the cube. I could look for both. So here I know that there's an m that's common, a single m. Here I have the n that's common, so I'm going to take out that. And I have a number, so it's 12, 8, and 6. So 12, 8, and 6. So I know I have a common, I guess a 2. I can take out a common factor of 2 for the numbers. And I can take out a single m, because there's 3, 1, and 2. And then the n's, I have 1, 4, and 3. So then that would be a single 1, so that would be 6 is left, so 12 divided by 2. I have 2 m's left, no n's. For the second term, right, because there's 3 terms, I would have a 4 left, take away the m, and I have n to the 3, stop me when I'm wrong, raise your hand, minus 3m, right, and then n squared left. So common factors can have variables, numbers, or both. Now, that is always, always, always going to be our first step. So first step, whenever you get any factor in question, you're always looking to do the common factor first. No, it doesn't show up very well. Okay, so that's always, always, always our first step. So then there's other types of common factoring. So the other type of common factoring is when it's already in a bracket for you. So for instance, so this is one example, 2 examples, and then there's another one. So another one from your notes that I had on there was I had 4x w plus 1 plus 5y, and this is w plus 1. So what was common here is that this has the common factor. So it can be, like I showed up here, it can be a variable, it can be a number and a variable, or it can be a factor like this, which is a binomial factor. It can be a trinomial factor. So as long as it's multiplication, you can factor it out. It's a common factor for both of these terms here. So I'm going to take that w plus 1 out. Okay, so I'm going to take that out. I'm going to write that down here. So I go like this, w plus 1. Oh, notice as well, I'm doing equal signs. So your communication does count. So see, I said this equals this, or you can list it under. Okay, but you do have to have equal signs where they belong. If you have too many or too few, you will lose marks. You want to have them where they belong. So here I'm saying this equals. So I wrote down the common factor, and then you write down what's left over. What's left over is the 4x plus 5, right? So I took out that, put it in front, and that has to be in a bracket. So you're saying that the w plus 1 multiplied by both of those terms. So that has to be in a bracket. So that's a common factor, and it's a binomial. You can have trinomials, whatever it is, as long as it's by multiplication. Okay, is that okay for common factor? All right. Then it had a little bit of factor by grouping. So the next topic in our note set was factor by grouping. Okay, factor by grouping, this looked like this. So I had, for instance, in our sheet here, I had an example, AC plus BC plus AD plus BD. So that was one example. So I looked at this and I said, okay, what if I can try to look for a common factor for each one of those sets? So I have here, between those two terms, I have a common factor of C. So I would say, okay, I have a common factor of C. I write down what's left over, A plus B. Then I have here a common factor of D. Common factor of D, and I write down what's left over, A plus B. What happens is that it matches this idea. it has the common factor now that has the same factor multiplied by the same these two terms. It's the same factor. A plus D is multiplied to both of them. So it's like this. So now it's a common factor again, and it's a binomial this time. It doesn't have to be a single term. It could be anything, binomial, trinomial. So then you're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to write the A plus B, right? So I write that first or second. It doesn't matter the order. Okay? And then now write what's left over. So I took the common factor out, put it here, and went C plus D. I do have to have the brackets here, right? Because I get sometimes students they just don't write it down because they go, well, I just took it out, and you know it's times both. I won't know it's times both unless you put the bracket. So put the brackets where the brackets are, where I'm putting them, and the equal signs. Okay, so that's factoring 2 by 2. Do you want me to do another one of those, or is that okay? 2 by 2?
Oh, yeah. Can you do B?
Yes, B. So we've got B, so this was the A from there, and then the B. So it's going to go xy plus 12, 4x plus 3y. Okay, so again, I'm going to look 2 by 2. So when I look 2 by 2, I go, okay, what's the common factor for each one of those? And I tricked you. There isn't one, right? So x, y, and 12, there isn't one. And then 4x and 3y, there isn't one. But it's not one of these where I have a nice set. So you are allowed to rearrange it. So sometimes you go, well, I don't have anything in common with you. You don't have anything in common there. So does it work if I rearrange it? So let's try to rearrange it. Yeah, so you're going to go this first one with the third. You don't have to physically rearrange it, but you're looking at it. So you say, okay, my partner here doesn't have the same thing, but can I just skip over and rearrange it like that? So then you go, okay, ignore the 12, so we're looking at those two. Is there something common? Yeah, right? So that one I can take out the x, and what's left over, it would be x comes, yes, y and plus 4, right, for that one. And then for the second two here, the 12 and the 3, what's common? 12 and the 3y, I get 3, right? And then what's left over, I got 3 gets out of the 12, right? Divides out of the 12, 4, and, oh, y. There you go. Is y plus 4 and 4 plus y, are they the same? Yeah, they're the same, right? Which order do you write it in? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the order. You can write it either way. I'll do y plus 4. So I'm going to write down again. So now we've got the common factor, y plus 4, right? You can write it either order. I tend to just take the common one out, and then you get x plus 3 like that. Okay, that's a good one, right? Because it was out of order, and yet you can't see it right away, but you are allowed. Yeah, it's a trickier one. Okay, another one is C okay, or okay? Okay, just let me know if you want me to do it. I just don't want to waste our time. Yeah, do it? Yes, okay, that's why. So I don't want, you always tell me, okay, no, I want you to do more or less, because sometimes I think I'm too slow. All right, so let's do C. All right, so C was 2m squared minus 3t minus 6m plus mt. So first thing I do is I try it in the order I gave it to you. So I go 2, okay, oh, there's nothing, no common. And 2, this one has an m, but if I take an m out, I have a 6 and a t. That's not going to help me, right? So you're looking for this matching set. If you can't get a matching set, then there's no point in doing a 2 by 2. So again, the 2, that doesn't match. This one has a common factor of m, but I get stuck again. So I'm going to do the same thing. First with third, and then the second with the fourth. Okay, so let's try. So first and third, common factor would be a 2 and an m. And then what's left over, an m and a minus 3. Is that right? So 2 and a 3 there. Then negative 3t plus mt. So negative 3t and the mt, my common factor for that would be a t, right? T for both of them. Now, is it negative or positive, though? So there's a negative here. You can try one first, and if it doesn't work, then flip it to the other sign. So sometimes you go, it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. So I'm just going to leave the negative, right, and go, I'm going to try it. and then I'm going to take out the t. And sometimes the sign might be wrong, but again, that's easy to fix after. So let's try something. Don't sit there and stare at it and go, has to be perfect the first time I try. Sometimes you have to try it and go, that didn't work, I'm going to flip it over. So I'm going to go like this. So negative t comes out, that'll make it a positive 3. Negative t comes out here is minus m. Backwards, right? So I shouldn't have taken out the negative, but it's not bad. At least I tried something, so then I can see that I took out the negative. So then I just go back. You don't have to rewrite it now, right? So just go like this and say, actually, I wanted it to be positive t, which makes it negative 3, right? So fix that to be negative, and that would have been a positive m. Now, is m minus 3 and negative 3 plus m the same? They are the same, right? They're just written in ascending versus descending order, but that's okay. So they're both the same. Now, I'm going to write down m minus 3. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So m minus 3, and then write down the leftover, so 2m plus t. Okay, I want to point something out, and you might have been told this in grade 10. I hope you were, but you should not begin your factors. So I'm just going to note that down. Do not begin a factor with a minus. Okay, so the first term should never be negative. If it is a negative, you either write it backwards, like in descending or ascending order, or you rewrite it. So either write it, so I'm going to show you here on Post-it. Okay. So if, for instance, the factor was like what we had here, negative 3 plus m, I wouldn't leave that as a factor. I would reverse it and write it m minus 3. Okay, so you can reverse the order. If I can't get rid of it, and we'll get to some like that this year where we go, but I can't get, like, it messes up the whole thing, then I would factor out a negative and go 3 minus m like that. So you could factor out a negative or do that. The main thing I want you to remember is that don't begin with a negative, and we're going to be hitting a couple later on where we begin with a negative, so what do? We reverse the order or factor out a negative. So whenever you can, just reverse the order or factor out a negative. Okay, so you should have been told that last year, and I'm going to remind you here, you don't begin with a negative factor. All right. Any other questions with that one? All right. So that's good for common factor and factor by grouping. All right, let's go into trinomials then. Let's go into trinomials. Yep.
How do you guess and check for factor?
For this one or?
Just like trying.
For in general, I'm going to do the trinomial in a second. You mean for that one?
You could use the guess and check for trinomial.
Yeah. I'll show you. Yeah. Okay, so trinomials. So the first trinomial I showed you here on the review factoring package, like this thing here, so that's where I'm looking, are the more easy ones, right? So the easy ones, so here, the easy ones are considered to be when there's a 1 in front. So if there's a 1 in front, right? So if there's a coefficient of 1 in front, those are considered to be a little bit easier, right? So a little bit easier. So then if they're easier trinomials, all we have to do is ignore that, and we're just looking here. So it's going to say that it's multiplies to positive 8, and it adds to positive 6. So in your brain, you're going, it multiplies to the positive 8, and it adds to 6. Right? So whatever two numbers multiply to 8, so I start with that, and I go, so product, so some people do the product, the chart and stuff. I usually just do it on the side, and I go 1, 8, 2, 4. There's only two ways, right? So 1, 8, 2, 4. Which one adds to 6? Only the 2, 4, as long as both of them are positive. So positive 2 plus 4 gets me the 6. Does that work for my multiplying to positive 8? Yes, and then I just do that on the side. I don't need to see any work for this. I want you to go straight to the answer. You shouldn't have to show any steps for simple trinomials. You should be able to do this on the side, and you should be able to just go straight to x plus 4, x plus 2, and just write the answer. I don't need to see any of the work. I don't need to see product. I don't need to see any of the words. You shouldn't have to show any steps. Yes?
Do we lose marks if we do?
You're going to have to show me the steps that you want to write down, and I'll tell you why it's not necessary. I don't know what steps you would write for that. Like, you want to show me the box that shows 2, 4?
No, like splitting the middle term?
For the middle term?
Yeah,
It's not necessary for a simple trinomial.
but if we do,
You have to stop. You're in grade, is this grade 11?
yeah.
Is this you? Yeah, this one I'm not going to let you. You're wasting your time. You're not going to finish. Okay, so that's why. So you chose this course. I told you guys that. I'm going to train you like you're in the U course, right? The other 2 courses, you can do whatever you want. This one, no. Okay, you're wasting your time. Okay, what 2 numbers multiply to 8 and add to 6? That's it. Okay, you should not have to break that up. These are simple ones. Okay, again, here we've got the x squared. So I'm going to jump to h, and it's x squared minus 2xy minus 15y squared, like that. Okay, and the only thing different here, it is still a simple, right? So it's still a simple because it's a coefficient of 1, and it's still simple because it has the 1 there. We have the x and the y. So when we have this, we know that it's going to be multiplies to 15, right? So on the side, you should be able to do this on the side and go multiplies to 15, 1, 15, so I'll write it, and 3, 5. There's only 2 choices. We know it's 3, 5, as long as 5 is negative and 3 is positive. Okay, it should be that fast. You don't even have to write that. A lot of people should hopefully be like, I can see the 2 numbers, and then you're going to write your 2 brackets. You either write it beside, but I ran out of room there, or below. There should be equal signs, right? So I should not have to remind you of this, but you are marked for communication, so equal signs. And this is going to be x, and it's going to be positive 3. And because there's y there, you've got the y. And this will be x minus 5y, right? And that means that x times x gets me x squared, and for the last term, y times y gets me y squared, and the middle, they match up. X times y times x gets me 2xy. So that matches to the middle term. Okay, so each one of them matches the xy, and that's y squared, and that's x squared. Okay, so that is, again, the straightforward, is supposed to be the straightforward trinomial that you should be able to do right away in 1 step. Okay, and again, it's practice, right? So you have to practice enough so you can do it. Rough work here, put the numbers down. And then eventually you should be able to not do the rough work unless the numbers are bigger, like 3 and 5, you should be able to do that in head. I don't care if you do the rough work on the side. I'm not looking at that. You go right to the answer. The next one is, what happens if, okay, the trinomial has more than just 1 coefficient in the front. So I want to try this one. So it's 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. Always look for common first. Okay, is there a common factor? That is always your first step. No. Right? So I can't get rid of the 3. I can't get rid of any of the numbers to make them smaller. So then you go on to the next one. But always your first step should be common, whether it's variables or numbers, whichever. So you take your first step, look at it, no. So then what you're going to do is you're going to try to break this up. You have 2 different ways of doing this. One of them is just guess and check, where you're trying to find the middle term and do decomp. So you do a middle term, break it up. So you're guessing and checking there. Or there's a guess and check on an X method, or some people just guess and check and put the 2 brackets down and just start to do it. By the time you get to the grade 12, you'll probably be at the point where you put the brackets down and you just start to do it faster. So here, I'm going to go with this method. So the method I usually do is I take this to the side, and I do a little bit of rough work. Okay, so my rough work is here on the side. I write the 3x squared, and I go 3x squared. I break that up. So that can be broken up to 3x times x, right? 3x times x for the first term. The second term, I'm going to write it to the right of it, so I write it in order. So that's the 3x and the x. The 2. The 2 is either 2 times 1 or 1 times 2, so I can flip that around. Right, so 2 times 1 or 1 times 2. What I do here is I put an x like this, so some people call it the guess and check on an x. Okay, so you're going to say, this is my first term, so that goes here. I'm just going to draw a line. So this first term here goes there. Okay, the second term goes here. Okay, so the first term goes in the first column, the second term goes in the second column. You're breaking it up into the factors, the same way as we did before. You look for the factors first and then see if it adds in the middle. The way you check if it adds in the middle is the crisscross. What you're looking for here is the fact that when you multiply, so take a look at this. When you multiply, it's first times first, which gets you your first term. Okay? Last times last, which gets you your last term. The middle is this crisscross part here. So that is x times 5, and then the 3 times the x there. Who are you looking for? Okay, so here, the middle part is this crisscross. So that's the part we're showing here. There's a crisscross, and that's the middle. So the first is the first, the last is the last, and then there's a middle term there. Okay, so I go 3x times 1, and you can write this, and eventually some people who can do the mental math in their head, they don't write it. But a lot of people do. So 3x times 1 gets me 3x. X times 2 is 2x. Is there any way I can combine those to get me 5? Yes, if both of them were negative. Does that work if I make both of these negative? If both of my two columns are negative, does that get me a negative 2 for my last number? No. What are you looking for?
Pardon?
Who are you looking for?
Oh, I'm just looking. Answer?
What class are you in now, Master? I'm sending Master to get me off. He's wandering into classrooms. Master, can you men talk to him, please? Master, on your way, they're waiting for you. Okay. So this one's tricky, and I chose it on purpose, because look, it matches the negative 5, right? So it's meant to throw you out. You go, ooh, that does work. But it doesn't match the negative 2. So you cannot force it. You can't say, well, it's pretty close. Maybe you won't notice the sign. No, it's wrong. So then you go, that does not work. Can't, even though it's so, so close, and you're like, oh my gosh, but it's the same numbers. The sign's wrong. Done. You're done. The signs don't match. The signs don't match. So flip those two around. I only ever change the right side. I leave the left side alone. I don't want to do a double switch. So I'm going to go 2 here and a 1 here. Okay, 2 and a 1. So the 2 is 3x times 2, so that gets me a 6x. And the 1 times the x gets me an x. Okay, so it's a 6x and a 1x. Can that make a 5x? That can also make a 5x. So that would get me a negative 6x and a positive x. Okay, negative 6x. Now wait, watch this. So where do I put the negative 6x? That's this row. I did 3 times 2, which got me negative 6x, and then x times 1, which was the positive. Okay, positive 1 times negative 2. Does that get me my last term? Yes. And this is how you write your bracket. This is how you write your glorious, beautiful, beautiful bracket. You write it like this. One bracket and the other bracket. So it's 3x plus 1 right? 3x plus 1, and this is your other bracket, x minus 2. Yep.
So, I was in Miss Upsher's class, and I didn't learn the X method. What?
Doesn't matter. Can I finish this for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. So that will always work, right? Because you've got the middle term and adding up to the middle term and the first term and the first term like that. You can even use that for this. So it does work for this. People go, what about the simple one? Well, the simple one would also work the same way. So you'd say, okay, so if I had x and x, it's just the left side's always x and x. And you go 8 is going to be 1, 8. Would that be 8x and 1x? So it still works. So you go 4 and 2, and that gets me a positive 4, positive 2. And some people use it for the simple one. You go, wait, that's 2x, that's 4x, that gets me my 2, and you write your bracket. So it does actually work for the simple one. I just don't bother with the simple because when it's a 1 in front, it doesn't matter, right? So that is that way. Now, that is usually the fastest way that you can get through this. The other way was the decomposition. Okay, so decomposition is where you're guessing and checking for the middle term and you're breaking it apart. So you get 3x squared minus 5x minus 2. So you're supposed to guess as to what two numbers multiply to negative 6 and add to negative 5, right? So it's this. So it's multiplied to negative 6, which is here, and then you're adding it to the negative 5, which is there. So it's still the same guess and check as we've been doing the whole way through. Multiplies to this, adds to that. So you're still doing negative 6 and adds to 5. So negative 6 and adds to 5, it's going to be 1, 6, or 2, 3. They both add to 5, but again, so you're doing, see how you're doing the same thing here? It's the same numbers, right? So over here I'm going, okay, 1, 6, 3. Okay, so I'm going to go negative 5, so I need them both negative, but that does not multiply. This should be multiplied to negative 6, so that won't work. So I need this to be negative 6, so that won't work. Negative 6 and a positive. That gets me negative, yeah, there you go. So it's the same thing. So you can see it's the same numbers we're looking for, right? So it's the same two numbers that we end up looking for. The 6 and the 1, the 3 and the 2, we're still there. So mine is in the crisscross like that, and then this one you're doing 3 times 2. 3 times negative 2 gets you negative 6, so it multiplies to negative 6 and adds to the middle term. So then what you're supposed to do using decomp is that you're supposed to rewrite it and say I got 1 and 6. You're going to say plus x minus 6x minus 2. So this decomp part here is this part here. Then you have to go 2 by 2. So you have to go 2 by 2 and do the factoring of 2 by 2, which I just showed you above with the common factoring. So you're going to say common factor is x. You get 3x plus 1. Common factor is negative 2. You get 3x plus 1. And then you rewrite the 3x plus 1 and then what's left over, right? So it's the same common factor I just showed you on the page before. So that's okay. This just takes you longer, okay? Because you have to do the whole decomp and you're still looking for the same two numbers. Both of them are guess and check. This guess and check is smaller numbers. It keeps your numbers smaller. So that's why this one most people end up liking more, because your numbers remain smaller. What I mean by that, and I'll show you in a second. Okay, but you can see, look, I have the same two numbers I'm looking for. The negative 6, right, and the negative 5, which is exactly what I was looking for here. So that's the same. You have to do decomp. If you choose to show me these steps, you have to show me the proper steps. If you have a mistake in these steps or they're badly written, mathematically badly written, you will lose marks. So I don't care if you get to the right answer. If there's something wrong in your steps, you will lose mark for your steps. Because I find that some people get sloppy here because they know what you're aiming for, and then you start to halfway do your steps. So you will be marked for the entirety of your answer. So if you do show these steps, they have to be written mathematically correctly. Wait. Okay? The other thing is, so I just want to show you here, if I give you numbers that are bigger, so this is the problem. So if I give you numbers that are bigger, you have to be able to do this in a timely way. So if I gave you something like this, so I gave you an extra sheet of questions, which my students asked me for, they said, can you give me some bigger numbers so I can practice to make sure my method works? Multiplies to 30 times 8. So if you do the decomp way where you have that, it does end up being, like I said, big numbers. So let's look at this and try it this way. So if I have the 30x squared plus the 43x minus 8. Okay, so that's one of these sheets. So these are from the students who said, can you give me numbers so that I can try it again and make sure that my method works, that I'm not just able to do small numbers, but I can do any number. So if you want to do this one, you can try it with me or you can try it on your own for a second. But I'm going to show you the X method. They're both guess and check. Both of them are guess and check, but one of them keeps the numbers smaller. So here, okay, I'm going to do this. 30. 30 is either 30 and 1. I'm not going to start with that. 30 is such a big number, right? So 30 and 1 means that my factor would be 30. And you can see the number here is 43. If it was a really, really big number, I'd start there. So I'm going to break it up kind of more split. So I'm going to maybe try 5x and 6x. You could try 3 and 10. I just try 1 and start something, right? So it's rather than doing it randomly. So here, let's try this. So we've got 5x and 6x, that gets me my first term. That always goes in the first column. The second column is the 8. For 8, I have 1, 8, 2, that's it, right? 1, 8, and 2, 4. Now, let me show you a nice thing that works with this. So it reduces the number of checks that you have to do. And this is why I said this is actually, for me, this was a better method. This was the only method I learned. So growing up, I didn't even know there was a decount method. I had to learn that